races. How are you, Susan?
Good. How are you, Molly?
Good. Thank you so much for joining us. So it's 2018. Many of you may or may not have set goals for the new year and resolutions. So we have strategized, and mainly Susan here has helped and set up. We're going to help you get in shape if you've set fitness goals for the new year. So we're going today to talk about 3 steps to help you successfully start and maintain a running routine, which I think is going to be fun and excellent, and you're going to help us do it and make it easy, right?
Well, we're going to try and make it a little easier because the weather so far has not been very conducive to anybody that may have had these resolutions. So The hardest thing sometimes is to just get started. Where do you get started? So depending on if you're a new runner or if you want to move up in distance, the best thing to do is make a plan.
Okay.
So you can find plans on Runner's World, you can find Training Peaks. There's a number of places out there that do have plans for you so that you don't just walk out the door aimlessly not really knowing what to do. The second part of that is to find some support, especially on days with conditions like we've been having. You need a friend to help drag you out that door.
Yeah, and support is crucial.
Yes. And oftentimes, you're sitting home alone and you can find every excuse in the world not to go outside. But once you do go outside, you'll feel so much better than if you did give up on that run. The best place to do that is either an actual friend, or there are tons of virtual running groups that are out there, whether they're from Roadrunner, which is on North Main, or there's plenty of running groups here in Rhode Island, like Rhode Island Roadrunners, or We Run This Town. They have accountability, even if it's a virtual accountability that will say everybody's kind of in this together. So that part is really great too. And the last thing that we recommend is if you commit to a goal, and that goal can either be a destination race, it can be a local race, it can be whether you're trying to finish your first 5K, like a Couch to 5K type of thing. Just set that goal so that you have a time frame that says, well, I want to accomplish this by that date, and then it sets everything backwards for you to begin your plan.
Awesome. So we are literally helping people start from the very beginning. So if people are interested in running, maybe they've never been a runner before. Mm-hmm. So what's maybe one thing that you need to know, whether maybe you just haven't run in a long time and you're interested in doing this, or you've never run before? What's a very first step, basic way to start?
Basic way to start, I would recommend, is buy yourself a new pair of sneakers.
Okay.
And make sure they're properly fitted and you've talked to an expert about the right shoe for you, whether you're an overpronator or not. Because if you don't have the proper running shoes, you might have an injury and that would set you back again. Yeah. Plus, there's nothing like a little shopping therapy to help you set you on your goal.
Shopping therapies.
But other than that, essentially, I would say once you get your sneakers, just get out the door. Don't wait for a perfect day or don't wait for someone else to drag you. Just take that first step and just commit to it.
Okay.
So it can be tough, but you'll be happier once you do.
And so if people are kind of getting back in the groove, everyone feels kind of, we all feel a little bit groggy after the holidays, whether it's because we overindulged in something or, we're just kind of like, we have to get back into things. Is there any advice you have when we're starting to get back in our fitness goals, back into our running goals, if you're hitting the gym rather than outside?
So my theory always, you want to set small attainable goals. One of the best methods that's out there is a Jeff Galloway method. So it's somebody that, even if you're on a treadmill inside or you are going to be outside, kind of set a goal where you're going to run every other telephone pole. And that's a much more attainable distance than saying, I'm going to go out and run 3 miles today. So you'll probably end up doing the 3 miles, but you might do a run to this telephone pole, walk to the next, run to this telephone pole. So if you have these measurable goals that you can see them, they're a lot easier to accomplish. And then as you get up in distance, you can increase that. So you're running 2 telephone poles, walking 1. And so these little goals that, once you accomplish them, give you this sense of self-esteem and make you go that much longer. My other best advice is do something that's going to take your mind off of running.
Okay.
Because running can be very hard. So I always do my best thinking when I'm running. So if I have a really big problem I'm trying to work out, I don't think about this hurts or this weather's cold or all the things that might be setting you back. I think about, I have this big project to do. What can I just find there's really good thinking out there. The other thing that I just started doing is listening to podcasts.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite ones was the Crime Town podcast. And I got lost in my runs just listening to these podcasts. So it helps me forget that I'm actually out there running and I kind of get lost in a story. And there's tons of good running podcasts that are out there too.
Okay, so that's we kind of moved on to step number 2 when you have your first run. So you mentioned kind of losing yourself in the run and setting these attainable goals. I kind of want to back up to those setting those attainable goals, because I do think that's really important. Sometimes when you dive into things, you can definitely overdo it when you're starting something new. I remember when I was training just like in high school sports, we would do those. My dad called them fartleks, which I don't know if that's appropriate to call things like that anymore, but
It's
where
still
you
a
would
thing.
you would walk, jog, and then sprint, walk, jog, and then sprint. But I think the idea of walking and jogging, maybe between telephone poles or doing intervals on a treadmill, I think that's super appropriate, especially when you're first starting out. Do you, when someone's maybe first starting and you're trying to set attainable goals, do you think maybe time or distance is a good way to do things? Like maybe walk for 5 minutes, jog for a few minutes, or do you like to do distance, or how do you think is a good way to approach things for beginners?
So for beginners, so I coach a cross-country team as well. With the cross-country team, I tend to do it by time because the girls will get strung out. And all of them run at different times in different places. But if you're doing it by yourself, I would do it by distance, and you can tend to do it by how you feel. You know, and it's just, you know, I'm gonna, like you said, if you want to do it, it is a fartlek workout, and it's based on increasing your speed. So you're gonna run that much faster for, you know, it's if you want to keep checking your watch, that's kind of hard to do when you're by yourself.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna say, all right, I'm gonna sprint to that telephone pole, or I'm gonna sprint up that hill, or I'm gonna sprint around the corner, and then I'm gonna bring it down, like that's easy for you to manage by yourself. And it does kind of help you increase that distance, raise your heart rate a little bit, and it will actually increase your fitness because you are varying the type of running you're doing. You're not just going out there and slogging through 3 miles at the same speed without anything to break it up.
Okay. And I think it's too, like you said, set those goals, because it's important, because everybody's going to be different. You know, someone's goal might be just to start running. So you're starting from walking to jogging to running. Someone's goal might be to run a marathon. You know, everyone might have a different goal. So it's important to set those goals, which I think is neat. And so I always kind of have that internal battle, like, do you run for distance? Do you run for time? And so it's kind of different. Everyone's different.
I think it depends on if you're trying to get to a certain distance. So
Okay.
if you're trying to run a race like a marathon, then the miles are going to be more important. If you're just trying to start running, then the time is probably more important.
Okay.
Because you just want to build up the time that you're out there, and generally you'll get faster. And then if you are trying to train for your first half marathon, obviously you do have to start running those distances.
You gotta get those miles in somewhere. You gotta do it somehow, right?
Yeah.
You gotta figure out how those 13 miles are gonna add up too, which I always think is neat. And so throughout this, whether it's been how to start, or in our second step is when you start those first runs, you've talked about support. Talk to us a little bit about what it means when you're running out there, whether you're getting support from a friend or maybe an online group. Talk to us just a little bit about the running community here in Rhode Island, and what that's been like for you, whether you're planning races or you've been running yourself.
Sure. So I find that the running community here in Rhode Island and this is true across running, but particularly in Rhode Island because we are such a close-knit state, it is an incredibly supportive group. When you're a runner, you know, there's only going to be one winner in a race, but every runner is trying to be their personal best. So when you're joining a running group, and even if you don't know anybody that happens to be in this running group, they tend to want to be the best person they can be, not just in their running, but helping others to accomplish their goals as well. So a lot of people have seen the viral video that happens, like when a runner can't finish and somebody else is trying to cross them.
What makes you cry just thinking about all those videos, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but all the running groups are just like that. So there are, like, even if you're trying to get started and you join a Facebook group, people are so encouraging, even if you don't know them, just through the social media part of it, like, oh, we all had to go and, you know, run in -5-degree weather today. But we all did it, or some of us ended up on the treadmill, and that's okay too. And some days you take off days. But everybody has their own agendas and their own abilities, and there's no judgment ever amongst a runner, as long as you're all kind of in it together.
You all are putting in the miles, pounding the pavement or the treadmill, and putting in the time together. So I think that's neat. Okay, so we're talking about step 2 is having that goal, having that, make it interesting. You talked a little bit about maybe having podcasts or having music, something that, like, there are so many different apps on how to make it interesting. I think, like, if you didn't have technology, there's no way I could have ever done this without music. Some people prefer not to listen to music. There was this one app, it's called like Zombies Run or something. It's like the longer you went, you got to listen more and more of this story about zombies chasing you and that kind of thing. I always thought that was interesting. What are some other interesting ways that you found either you've heard stories or people can keep it interesting on their runs?
Sure. Well, I like architecture and I like to look at the world around me. So generally, and I used to travel a lot, and I always thought the best way to experience a city was to run through it. Because again, you don't want to get stuck in your own mind about the run.
This is terrible.
Take the time to really look around you, because we do spend so much time now looking down at devices.
So true.
Or really focusing on our own selves and immediate needs. But running, it allows you to, like, I'm an outdoor runner all the way. I love to look at the world around me, and even when sometimes it's getting really hard, I focus on like if it's a hot summer day, like the cool breeze on my skin, or the way the wind is going, so I know, I've got a tailwind now. I'm going to have the wind on the back.
That's awesome.
But I really see things that I don't ever see when I just drive by them 6,000 times a day. And even the same running routes that I have all the time, I'll reverse them every once in a while and be like, oh, I didn't even know that was there. So there's a lot of ways that you can even break up your own routines and learn something new. So there are lots of tricks to get out of that running stinks and I'm so tired and this hurts. You just have to play the mental game.
Okay, I think that's super important and super cool. And there's so much neat architecture to learn about in Rhode Island, not just the city of Providence, so you can get out and enjoy it. Okay, so we talked a little bit about how to start your running routine and what to do on those first couple runs. And now I think probably one of the trickiest things is, so you might get started, but then maybe you're sore and you're grumpy, but how to maintain it. That might be even more difficult than starting it, because everybody can start, but maintaining it might be the trickiest thing. So walk us through step number 3, how to maintain successfully your running routine.
So there's a couple ways that you can do that. One, you just have to make it part of your routine. So it's just like, I tend to schedule my runs just like I would schedule brushing my teeth or I probably run more often than I shower every once in a while. But you just have to make it part of your everyday life. It is just like brushing your teeth or taking a shower, because it does have to be part of your health and wellness program. So if you do find the time to schedule it, and even if it's like 1 mile a day or 2 miles a day, or anything is better than nothing. So if you can convince yourself of that, because once you get out there, you might feel like, oh, this is great, like I could actually go longer. Or if you only have like a half an hour, so do 3 miles, but do it quicker than if you were scheduled to do like 5 miles that day. So you're still going to get that same type of benefit, because now you're using an anaerobic process as opposed to an aerobic process. But my favorite way to maintain the habit is is honestly retail therapy. So I'm a big technology runner.
I believe I'm 100% behind you.
So you could set a goal like, all right, if I can log 10 miles this week, I'm going to go out and buy myself like a really cool new running watch. And you can do that with socks and gloves and jackets, and there's so much fun gear that's out there. So it could almost be like an advent calendar for your running. All right, 10 miles this week, I'm going to get a watch. 20 miles next week, I'm going to get like a really cool jacket. 30 miles the following week, I'm going to buy new sneakers. But retail therapy does help.
Retail therapy is really good.
Yeah. Nothing gets you out the door either, like some really cool gear. Like, oh, I got these new earphones. I'm dying to go try them.
Exactly. And you know what? When I was looking through this, I had a Fitbit. Of course, my husband and I each lost our Fitbit. I can't tell you how many times. But it is worth it. When you have that Fitbit and you have something that's holding you accountable, which I think having a friend, we have technology holding you accountable, whatever it is, and you see how many steps you have. I remember like seeing that Fitbit and I had like 100 steps to go before I hit my goal. I would walk up and down the stairs. Yeah. Or it was like, you have 2 flights of stairs before you reach your like super extra goal, whatever it was, like your record. And I'm like, oh, I can't stop now.
Right.
So like just having that, little extra piece of technology or that little extra benefit that you're excited about or you want or you like or something to hold you accountable is not only super fun and you're excited about it, but one more piece to remind you like, oh, hey, this is exciting and this is fun and I like this.
Yeah.
So even if you have like a tracker on your phone or whatever it is, I mean, that Fitbit.
Well, I have an Apple Watch and they give you all sorts of badges. And even for me, like I've been a runner for 30 years. And so today I'm actually going to get like my January badge and I'm all excited about it.
I know. Something little and silly, but you're like, like the flower badge. I had the climber badge on the Fitbit and I was like, oh, I'm getting that back. I'm getting that back. I will walk up and down these stairs 15 times before I go to bed, and yeah, you did it, right?
So it does. It helps the motivation.
It does. It does. So, retail therapy, that's always good, and you said make it part of your routine, and then find other people, which and find support. So, talk to us a little bit about this. We talked a little bit about runners groups in Rhode Island, but what I think is so neat is there's so many of these apps out there that help provide support and just online community, which, like you said, you can either go out and be totally isolated and alone when you run, or you can be part of a group, which I think is kind of this neat thing.
Mm-hmm. So I use Strava a lot because Strava does have you can create like a local group as well as create a worldwide group. So they do have challenges and things like that. But like for our company, we have a road races group. So they all do half marathons. So they are all kind of out there running together. I believe Roadrunner also has a group. I think it's actually on Strava, but Nike Run, there's a lot of apps that do have virtual groups. And while they are nationwide apps, they do have local bases. So you can actually see other people, if you're looking for a new route to run, you can kind of see what routes they're running and say, oh, I never went this way before. Maybe I'll run into somebody I know. And oftentimes, like I see the same people when I run, and it's great. And you wave, and everybody's kind of in it together. But there's a lot of group runs here in Providence and like on Blackstone Boulevard. I mean, we honestly, here in Rhode Island, we have amazing places to run, even in weather like this.
There are people running in weather like this, which I'm always like, please don't fall. Please don't break your wrist.
Yeah.
Please be careful. But some people actually prefer this weather, which I found out, which is interesting.
So I ran this weekend, and I actually posted that I would take a day like this weekend over a 90-degree humid day in September any day of the week. Because I feel alive when it's cold, and you can always get warmer when you run.
That's very true. You can't cool off.
And you can't cool off. I can't run in heat.
Unless you jump in the ocean.
Yeah, but I do. I love running in the winter. I find it peaceful and quiet and beautiful, and I think it's gorgeous. So the last tip I have is don't run every day, because you don't need to. It will bore you to tears. Cross-train, because it will help keep you healthy. It'll help keep you interested in what you're doing, and it will help you attain that goal that you have. So you're going to need to do yoga if you're going to run, particularly as you start to get a little older. Yoga is good for strength and for flexibility, and runners need that because they do tend to focus on running. Swim is also a really good way to do it. But you do need to strength train. You need to have some sort of push-up, like a minimalist routine. Do push-ups, do chin-ups, do lunges if you're a runner in particular, but take care of your hips. Because once you do run a lot, you do tend to get weak hips.
Yeah, take it from me.
Yeah, everything comes from the hips. Everything.
Take it from me. Don't run all the time, otherwise you'll hurt your hips. Yeah. No, I find that so interesting because you talk to runners and you see runners, and in the past, I feel like this is almost maybe like a new idea that you don't have to run every day, and now there's data, there's evidence to show like, don't run every day, incorporate cross-training.
Mm-hmm. So I've run Boston, 5 or 6 times. And every time I ran Boston, I was of the mentality that I have to run, 20 miles on the weekends, 22 miles on the weekends. I have to run like 100-mile weeks every single time I got hurt. So finally and I go see Mike Silva, who's at Foundation Performance in Pawtucket. He works on Molly Huddle and a lot of the New England distance runners. He's an amazing physical therapist. But he's told me, you can successfully run Boston in training 3 to 4 days a week.
Wow.
And just on those other days, you swim, you do yoga, you strength train, you really take care of your body and you recover. Particularly as, I've been running for 30 years. As you get older, your body just doesn't want you to run as much. I mean, some people can, don't get me wrong. And if I could, I would run every day because for me, it's just easy. You throw on your shoes, you go out, you don't have to find a class, you don't have to do anything. And I like to be outside, but it's not the best way to take care of yourself as you get older.
So hopefully we've helped you, given you 3 strategies and some meat in between to help you start and maintain a running routine for 2018. Mm-hmm. And we're going to continue to provide you updates throughout the year to hopefully help you continue throughout the way. For people that maybe are just getting started running, maybe walking is something that's for them. Maybe that's where they need to start.
Yes.
What are some, is what we talked about, is that pretty much the same thing? Just getting out there and walking? Do all those strategies work if you're just walking? Because I feel like that's the same, retail therapy.
Yep.
It's like get out, set goals, find a community, incorporating it into your team, put it in your calendar. Do all those strategies work if really just getting out there and doing it? Is that really, it all works the same?
It all works the same. I mean, running, you just do it faster. So you could get farther distance in a shorter amount of time, but it's still the same idea, is just to get outside, get off that couch, and really, take time away from the devices, focus on your inner thoughts, and just appreciate the world around you.
I think so. So hopefully we've helped you get a little motivated for 2018. And Susan is here with road races. Any plans or activities for road races coming up in 2018? When's the season start?
So our first race is in Newport on April 14th, so it's actually Boston Marathon weekend, because we feel like everybody in New England is, all involved in the marathon spirit. So it's also the start of Daffodil Days in Newport. So as people are starting to train for it, weather like this, we keep thinking about like the beautiful daffodils that are going to be in Newport. And honestly, spring in Newport and running down Ocean Drive and Memorial Boulevard, it is just beautiful. So for that race, we have a 5K, we have a half marathon, and we have a full marathon. And then the next race is our big race in Providence, the Providence Marathon. That's on May 6th. That one's rated the number 3 marathon by Runner's World for bucket list marathons. And we bring people from 50 states and 18 countries come to Providence to run that race. So
That's awesome.
it's a pretty cool race.
That's awesome. So I feel like if people are starting now, getting ready on their fitness goals, April, that's 4 months away. Is that fairly attainable to do a 5K? I mean, you see couch to 5Ks all the time.
Oh, sure. In fact, people start marathon training generally right around this week, too. So
People who've never run before?
yeah, they have some sort of base. Generally, they're going to start between 4 miles and 6 miles. But if
Okay.
you can start running 4 to 6 miles, you can get to a marathon distance by April 14th.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. All right, everybody, you
have
heard
to be
it.
committed, but
You have to be very committed, and make sure you do that cross training because we don't want injuries.
Yeah.
All right, hopefully we've inspired you a little bit. Susan, thank you so much for joining us. We're wrapping up here on Go Local Live in the Navigate and Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm Molly O'Brien. Josh Fenton joins us here in just a moment for Business Monday. We will see you once again, once again, once again, once again.